The story starts off intense. Two pet dogs, Simon and Carrie, go missing in the woods, emerge from a wet cave, and come out suspiciously aggressive, chewing on their own flesh. Their intense breathing and rabid behavior can be linked to the strange water they consumed in the cave. This haunting, demonic event sets the stage for an intense atmosphere for Tim and Millie, who are soon moving to the countryside. Millie has recently landed an outstanding teaching job in the countryside, and the couple is throwing a going-away party before they finally leave the city. Millie and Tim have been together for years, but they're slowly developing gaps in their bond. Their awkward interactions at the going-away party, Tim's hesitance towards Millie's wedding proposal, and his overall emotionally distant demeanor add to the tension. Millie is at the point of questioning this entire relationship, and Tim's distant behavior is not making it any better. The cracks in their relationship are starting to show, but Millie believes a change in the scenery will restore the visibly dying spark. The move, which was supposed to fix everything, was slowly turning into a horror story. Tim's unsettling nightmares and odd discoveries around the house, including a saw machine and rat corpses inside the ceiling, were a turning point. Jamie, Millie's new coworker who also happens to live near her house, enters the story. He tries warming up to her while Tim maintains his distance from Millie. To fix things with Tim, Millie plans a hiking date, but everything goes completely wrong. The awful energy surrounding the strange bells hanging in the trees, the sudden rainstorm, and the same underground wet cave from earlier set the mood for an even more terrifying experience. While hiking during the rainstorm, Tim and Millie fall into the hidden underground cave. Helpless, they decide to spend the night there. This mishap does help them bond better, but the worst is yet to come. Inside the cave, Tim and Millie are hit with a sudden wave of intense thirst. Tim, against his better judgment, drinks from a mysterious pool of water. Millie refuses. The night stretches long, and Tim goes from revealing his smoking secrets to childhood trauma surrounding the corpses of rats his father found in Tim's room. He also mentions the tragic death of his father following the rat discovery that led to the misery of his mother. That entire night was a nightmare for Tim, and the next morning, the couple found their legs partially stuck together. They managed to separate and dismiss it as a freak accident, but what follows is something much more sinister and eerie. Tim starts experiencing horrifying episodes of inexplicable convulsions and seizures while Millie is away. In denial, he tries to treat it rationally. Tim visits a doctor who brushes it off as panic attacks and prescribes muscle relaxants. Interestingly, the doctor mentions the recent disappearance of another couple after a similar hike, as if things weren't already so draining. Millie's creepy coworker and new neighbor Jamie pays the couple a visit as a friendly welcome. Millie brings up the traumatic cave story to Jamie. He listens and seems sympathetic, but there's something very off about him, and Tim is quick to notice. What follows after Jamie's departure is a series of strange, intimate interactions between Millie and Tim. Their lips physically merge during a kiss, and Tim almost swallowed Millie's hair raw during the night. Millie keeps bringing up the incident to Tim the next morning, but he brushes everything off, including his declining physical and mental form. He also insists on going to the musical gig, despite Millie's suggestion against it. The tension heightens, and Millie's friend suggests she rethinks her relationship with Millie. Tim, on the other hand, has an intense convulsion at the train station, and this episode physically drags him all the way to Millie's school. His need for physical intimacy with Millie seems very odd. They end up acting on impulse and do the deed in a bathroom stall, where they try to separate after finishing, but their genitals inadvertently fuse together. Then after this panicked, bloody separation, Jamie ends up seeing them. Embarrassed and scared, Millie lashes out at Tim for being so careless and impulsive with her during her work hours. After this intense fight with her fiancé, Millie runs straight to Jamie's house to apologize. The apology leads to Millie's mental breakdown, and she ends up oversharing everything about her clashes in her relationship with Tim. The conversation flows smoothly, and Jamie shares his own experience with Millie. He talks about his late husband with a hint of immense grief, and offers to show Millie his wedding tape. The woman leaves the house in a rush upon seeing Tim outside the house. Tim apologizes, and the two make up. Tim is also invested in the recently lost couple's story and stumbles upon the same odd bells he noticed during the hike. While running his private little research, he sees Millie acting strangely from across the glass door, and what follows is an intense attack from Millie. Millie was experiencing a similar episode to Tim, but kept refusing to admit the truth. Tim tries to connect the dots and concludes that the cave has made both of them sick. He insists that the urge to fuse bodies is not random, and there is something very off going on with them. Deep down, Millie knows it too. With bitter hearts and a dying bond, they attempt to resist the fusion, but their bodies continue to rebel. They attract each other's bodies and blood from across the rooms like magnets. Their limbs contort, bones crack, flesh merges. It's torturous and surreal. In a harrowing sequence, their arms become fused. Panicked, Tim guides Millie into using muscle relaxant pills, and the two eventually pass out. Tired of this distressing situation, Millie decides to use the saw machine to separate her and Tim's merged arms. After much consideration and pain, Millie succeeds in separating the merged limbs using the saw machine. There was still a dire need to get medical help to treat the fresh, open wounds. Millie wanted to go to the hospital instantly, only to realize she had accidentally left her car keys at Jamie's house. While maintaining a clear distance from Tim, Millie runs to Jamie's house, where she had accidentally left her car keys. Tim then decides to use this misfortune as an opportunity to visit the wet cave again. Millie arrives at Jamie's house in a rush, only to find the place completely empty. However, she could hear the faint sounds of the TV coming from a room. Curious, she walks inside and finds herself watching Jamie's wedding tape. What seemed beautiful and almost wholesome at first became creepy and traumatic. The newlyweds, along with a bunch of other strangely dressed people, step into an underground cave and perform the infamous fusion ritual. Millie was completely invested and slightly disgusted, and Jamie's unexpected voice in the back scares her. His behavior towards Millie was strange this time. He starts talking about the merging ritual with a hint of disgusting lust. Jamie, during the conversation about the cave incident, brings up the idea of becoming whole again. He was referring to an old ritual tied to the cave, a New Age church built over it, whose congregation practiced physical fusion of couples. He claims this is not twisted, but a path to fulfillment and wholeness. He also tells Millie about his own husband, the partner he supposedly merged with. It is revealed that he himself is one of these fused beings, the result of a previous ritual. As all of this was unfolding, Tim had also discovered the horror of what happens when fusion is forced or interrupted. He finds another couple, two earlier victims of this disastrous ritual, half fused, one half dead, the other alive. Meanwhile, Jamie has decided to force a fusion with Millie, and his true evil colors are starting to surface. This spawn of the devil tries to coerce her into accepting fusion. When she resists, he violently cuts her arm, but Millie fortunately makes a thin escape. The hell that broke loose in the cave was also taking on Tim. The horrifying hybrid of a helpless couple almost killed him, but he was fortunate to escape death once again. Millie and Tim return to their house together, but the fusion curse nearly kills them. By this point, both of them have understood the history of this inhumane ritual, and Tim apparently has found a way to escape it. He gets on his knees and proposes to Millie. They both confess their deep love for each other, and this beautiful moment is followed by Tim almost killing himself on the spot. Millie could not watch her boy partner die right before her eyes, and she started begging Tim to stop. Little did she know, her own body was giving up, and she passed out from immense blood loss. Millie wanted to die. She wanted Tim to be free from all the pain and restrictions this fusion carried. Tim almost lost his mind. Witnessing the death of his eternal love was the last thing he could think about. Terrified, bleeding, and overwhelmed, Tim makes his final choice. And instead of letting go of his partner Millie, he chooses to fuse his arm with hers. To make the fusion memorable, Tim plays Millie's favorite song from 1 decade ago, and they dance till their bodies merge into one final entity. Together ends up being more of a tragedy than a movie about redemption. Stories like this linger because they aren't really showing a happy ending that'll please everyone. They're about the quiet fractures in a relationship, the ones that grow slowly, invisibly, until something finally breaks. Beneath all the body-merging nightmares and surreal cave sequences, what you're really watching is two people trying desperately not to lose each other, even though they'll be better off if they do. It's messy, uncomfortable, and painful, just like an actual toxic relationship. But that's what makes it memorable. It takes something familiar and twists it until you're forced to see it differently. Together deserves more appreciation for its depiction of toxicity within relationships. The exhaustion, the resentment, the quiet distance that grows between two people who used to fit perfectly. I hope you enjoyed the video so far. If you did, please consider subscribing to more content. I would love to hear your favorite part of this movie. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.